Okay, today's lesson is about the challenges of the new nation that George Washington and his first administration faced, particularly dealing with foreign countries. For those of you in my class, looking at your study guide, you're going to want to fill out Jay's Treaty, Pinckney's Treaty, and be able to explain what happened during the Whiskey Rebellion. Interesting thing happened in Europe that will affect America. The French Revolution will happen, and in many ways it has similar ideas as the American Revolution, but it wasn't as executed as well, and it fell apart into this really messy, chaotic, deadly, violent time in France. But different parts of the French wanted us to be involved in it, wanted us to get us involved in it, and put a lot of pressure on the American government as well to take sides in it. Britain and France are always fighting in Europe. Both sides are expecting the United States to help them. Both sides are, if the Americans don't help them, are expecting them to, are going to pick on the United States. So the American government had to figure out what to do about this. So they made what's called the Neutrality Proclamation, which says the U.S. will not take sides in any European wars. We will remain neutral. We will stay out of it. And we expect other countries to treat us fairly as a neutral party as well. However, France and Britain won't really do that. When France went to war with Britain in Europe, the French still expect us to help, and they expected us to help them because they helped us against Britain. But as Americans, we weren't real interested in doing that, except for Thomas Jefferson, who thought we should help the French because they helped us. And that was a real problem. The French were very frustrated and angry with us for not helping them. Hamilton and Jefferson, of course, have different ideas on whether we should help the French or not. Jefferson encouraged our country to help the French, while Hamilton said we should stay out of it and focus on commerce. This is the final straw for Thomas Jefferson. No one is listening to him, and he gets mad and quits as Secretary of State in 1793, but that will not be the last we'll hear from him, as he will return and eventually be President of the United States. We finally signed a treaty with Britain that will bring more peace between us and Britain. The British finally agree to abandon their forts that are in our territory. We agree to pay some money back for ships we had stolen and seized, and some debts we owed them. With the general public, though, this was very unpopular because they felt like we were making a deal with our enemy, Britain. But it did increase the peace between the two nations. Pinckney's treaty settles disputes in trade with Spain. It's in 1794, and this allows for the southern border to be established in the United States. It establishes that Spain will control what is basically the Gulf Coast, Florida and that area, but in return they will open up the port of New Orleans to American ships, which is very important to trade and travel in the interior of the United States. So you can see Spain's going to control all of this, but we get access to the river here, which is helpful. Big problems in the Northwest Territory. The Native Americans are still fighting against the United States. Chief Little Turtle, fighting for his land, was pretty successful. In 1792, a new general was appointed to handle this, and that is General Wayne. When the British stopped helping because of Jay's Treaty, stopped helping the Native Americans, the Native Americans are in big trouble. They don't have the weaponry they need, and the Native Americans take a horrible loss at the Battle of Fallen Timbers in northern Ohio. The Native Americans were defeated and were forced to sign the Treaty of Greenville, which basically said that U.S. Indian lands in the Northwest Territories now belong to the United States, and the Native Americans will have to move. This is a very sad day for the Native Americans, as their livelihoods and their territory is being taken over. And there was a lot of controversy because only one tribe signed the treaty, and many tribes had to deal with the effects of the treaty. There's the site of the Battle of, I believe that's Fort Wayne, which is a modern city in Indiana today. There's the Battle of Fallen Timbers. It was called the Battle of Fallen Timbers because it had gone through a path of tornadoes where they fought, and there was all kinds of fallen trees. Another big controversy at the time was the Whiskey Rebellion. To raise more money, the government decided to raise a tax on whiskey because they thought whiskey's bad for you. You shouldn't drink whiskey. So let's put a tax on it. This is an example of what's called a sin tax, a tax on things that are bad for you. Example, taxes on gambling, tobacco, alcohol, sometimes even talking about sodas and soft drinks in the modern time. But the farmers who made the whiskey hated it because it was a huge source of income being taken away from them as people drank less whiskey. And these Pennsylvania farmers who were growing the corn, which would be distilled to make whiskey, were furious, and they have an all-out rebellion in western Pennsylvania. And George Washington won't stand for it. He says we need order, and so he sends the army, and actually he himself rides out with the army, and they quickly end the rebellion. This is the first real serious threat to the American government, and George Washington used his leadership ability to put it down and keep our country moving forward. All right, that's it for today.